So
Better.
now
Yes,
it's
yeah. Now you are Dr. Samia. Yeah,
now you are more visible.
Great.
I think Professor Salimul Haq give you the cue.
Excellent, Eddie, as he always does. As he always does. He gives great advice.
Dr. Liu, I think have you sent me the link to your video file?
No, actually, this video is I don't have a link, so I just have a file like now.
Ah, okay.
Yes. Currently I'm not in the office. I'm in my home, so.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe the file seems to be a bit too big to be sent over the email. And then I also we have received earlier as a link, but now the link is not working. So hopefully we can. I think your video has subtitle and the audio is in Korean. So maybe we can use the video and the people can read the transcript, subtitles. And when you share the screen, please do try to click on that allow audio button. And Nina, once again, I think everybody is here, and the Mercy will also will be here to make an opening remarks. So we are going to have everybody, and we do have now Dr. Zahurul Haq from Buet has also joined.
Thank you very much, Shiro, and welcome again, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Nina Arnold. I'm going to be the moderator for today's session. And I might approach you if we go over time, because that's my duty. Shiro, would you still like me to kick us off? And then I hand over to our partners from UGC and then to Mercy, or would you like to start with Mercy?
I think it would be good that if you can give us very brief intro, and then that.
Very good. I'm going to do this. It is 6 o'clock Bangladesh time, 7 o'clock Washington time. Shiro, would you like us to start?
Hi, Vidiren, are we already on live? Can you confirm?
We're already on live. I can see in the YouTube. So I think let us start.
And is this being recorded, Vidiren? Please confirm.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Shiro. A very warm welcome to all of you to this webinar on research and innovation for a greener Bangladesh and actually for a greener world. My name is Nina Arnold. I'm Global Lead for Tertiary Education at the World Bank. And it's an honor for me to be here with so many distinguished speakers and this audience. So thank you very much for the colleagues, to the colleagues for inviting me to moderate to do today's session. And I would also like to thank UGC Bangladesh, which has been a strong partner in the preparation of this webinar. For me, it's an excellent topic because it's so pressing for all of us. At the World Bank, just recently, we have launched a new higher education strategy, which is called Steering Tertiary Education. And one of the key columns, of the key aspects of this steer model is resilience. And there are two aspects to it. We are looking, of course, at tertiary education institutions which have been heavily affected by COVID-19, and tertiary education institutions and research institutions need to become more resilient. But on the other hand, we can also make a strong contribution to more resilient societies. And this is actually what today's session is about. And the setting that we locate this in Bangladesh could not be more appropriate, because Bangladesh, of course, has made very strong advances in terms of human capital development. And it is something we are all very impressed by and we are all learning from. At the same time, Bangladesh is a country which is heavily affected by climate change. And these 2 points are, of course, coming together and are going to be discussed in today's session. So on the same note and in the same way as Bangladesh has been a pioneer in human capital development, we are confident that it will also be a pioneer when it comes to tackling climate change issues and developing climate mitigation measures. So this is basically the context for our session today. As I said before, I'm going to be the moderator today, so I will keep an eye on the time and might occasionally ask our distinguished presenters to also keep an eye on the time. So much on housekeeping. We will also have a time slot devoted to question and answers. Please send us your questions via the chat function. We will be happy to confer them to the presenters. And with these words, let me actually hand over to Professor Alamgir from the University Grant Commission. I'm going to introduce you very quickly, Professor Alamgir, though I think this is not really necessary because I think people connected will know you. Professor Alamgir has been with the University Grant Commission of Bangladesh since 2019. He's a professor of civil engineering at Khulna University of Engineering and Technology, where he was also vice chancellor for 2 consecutive terms. He has been dean, he has been head, he has been provost. I think you covered all academic distinguished positions at the institution, Professor Alamgir. And your research, as people will know, covers solid waste, many aspects of geotechnical and geoenvironmental engineering and climate change issues. And you have published widely. Thank you for joining us today, and I hand over to you for the welcome.
Thank you very much, Nina, for your nice starting of this webinar and also as a long introduction of me. Thank you very much. And it is wonderful because we have started this one very timely. So good evening. Greetings to all from the University Grants Commission of Bangladesh and dear co-chair Marci. And also we have the special guest, Mr. Mustafa Kamal, the Honorable Secretary of Ministry of Forest and Environment. He is one of the youngest secretary of Bangladesh government and a dynamic person. And also we have 5 resource persons. And I know that most of them, one of my close friend, Dr. Thamarat, is also with us. I am happy to see him after a long time. And also all other persons from World Bank side. I am very happy that I am being a part of this wonderful event entitled as Research and Innovation for a Greener Bangladesh. Like other people, I may wonder why we need greener Bangladesh. Bangladesh is already famous for its greenery, and it has a beautiful landscape and also long coastal line, numerous rivers and tributaries, flat land with green grasses, lakes, wetlands, and evergreen forest, semi-evergreen forest, hill forest, and freshwater swamps and forest, a lot of things. All these things makes Bangladesh already green. And so we need more greener Bangladesh. This is one of the most important questions to me. This country is dominated by lashes of vegetations, and our villages blessed lot of trees of tropical nature. It has more than 6,000 plant life and more than 5,000 flower plants, having amazing wetland bodies and the wetland systems. And it is also the home of Sundarbans, the world's largest mangrove forest, which has covering 6,000 square kilometers and UNESCO's World Heritage. So with all these beautiful things about Bangladesh, on the other hand, Bangladesh is recognized as the most vulnerable country and faced climate change effects, especially floods and also the tropical cyclone with charges are the two most frequent occurred natural calamities that gave threats to its overall development process and also the daily life of the people living in the coastlines. Despite the frequent threats of natural calamities over the last decades, Bangladesh achieved remarkable achievements in socio-economic development. All the social indicators proved such development. This development touches in all basic sectors such as food security, education, health, shelter, communication, electricity. There is no doubt, even no debate on this. The development is directly related to the environmental sustainability. Sometimes there is a compromise on the possible environmental degradation in the name of development. However, without development, we cannot ensure the people's basic needs. And this is the most important thing, because I personally believe what might be the situation, people first. So we have to ensure their needs. Moreover, despite very little and almost no contribution on the global climate change effects, in terms of emission of greenhouse gases, Bangladesh is the worst victim of such effects, such as rise of seawater and rise of temperature in particular durations, and also the less temperature in particular fluid, saltwater intrusion, and increase of flood duration for a particular time, and also frequency of cyclone. What might be the global actions we have observed during the climate summit? But I realize definitely other people also agree with me. Bangladesh needs to do the things by itself with its own resources, because our interest and our needs cannot be addressed by other people. So we need to have the innovation and research in the tertiary level to solve our problems. In the meantime, Bangladesh has been working to achieving SDGs goals by the year of 2030. We have been achievements of Millennium Development Goal achievements by 2015. And we have the 8 5-year plan and perspective plan 2021 to 2041 and 100 years Delta Development Plan. All this we need to have a Bangladesh development with sustainable environmental things. Otherwise, our development cannot sustain. So for all this, we have to solve our problems through the research and innovations which is generated on this soil. And as the FX regulatory body for higher education, University Grants Commissions has already addressed these issues, and we prepared a strategic plan for higher education for the year 2018-2030, which was approved by the Honorable Prime Minister of Bangladesh in April 2018 to conduct the research in Bangladesh, and we need the facilities to be developed in the tertiary education level. You know that in Bangladesh presently there are 52 public universities and 108 private universities who have 2 international universities also. And UGC is already conducted a projects which is termed as the HACCP projects and financially supported by the World Bank. It was a wonderful project and it has a very glorious history of the success, and it's developed the innovation in the tertiary education levels. And we are going to have a further extension of such activities through HEAT project, which is higher education acceleration and transformation. And we hope that projects will come in very soon. That will also be supported by the World Bank. And with these few words, I would like to end here because we are waiting to listen from the experts. And there are 5 research persons. We hope that from the lecture of the research person, their opinions and their experiences will give us the light how through the research and innovations we can build a greener Bangladesh. Thank you very much and for your kind attention. With these few words, I would like to end here.
Thank you very much, Professor Alamgir, for this kind welcome and for kicking us off. I would now like to hand over to our esteemed country director of the World Bank for Bangladesh and Bhutan, Mrs. Mercy Tembon. Mercy, over to you for a formal welcome from our side.
Thank you very much, Nina. Co-chairs, Professor Alamgir, Christian Edo, the practice manager for education, global practice, presenters, discussants, ladies and gentlemen, and participants for this webinar on getting Bangladesh towards greener and a greener, resilient, and inclusive discussion, especially as it concerns climate change and environmental research and innovation. It's a pleasure for me to join this webinar and to see that this topic is actually being discussed. I am very pleased that colleagues could put this together, and I see a whole list of esteemed presenters who are going to share knowledge and their experiences about the capabilities and the potentials of universities in and around Bangladesh, so we can learn a little bit more about climate change. Professor Alamgir already said it, Bangladesh is already green, but why would we still be thinking about Bangladesh being green? Bangladesh is also in the Delta region, is in a delta. So we are in a situation where we are very, very vulnerable to climate change, the cyclones and everything to go with it, the flash floods and all. So climate change is a very, very important topic, and a topic that, you know, on the one hand, Bangladesh is a leader in climate adaptation and in policies to mitigate the impacts of climate change. But on the other hand, Bangladesh has a lot to teach other countries and a lot to learn from other countries. So I'm really pleased to see the diversity of presenters in this webinar, including some from Korea, Buet, and the Independent University of Bangladesh itself, and also from Thailand. It really brings the knowledge, the global knowledge together. And I'm very convinced that after this webinar, each and every one of us will take back a lot of knowledge and experiences that we can put into practice in our respective roles. So first, I want to thank the team for putting this webinar together. I want to thank the presenters who will be sharing their knowledge with us. And I really want to thank the discussants and the co-chairs for making this time to discuss this very important topic. You know, I always tell people that the World Bank doesn't only do finance. We do finance and we do a lot of research and knowledge. So this is one of the key examples of how we can, and we also convene, we can actually convene researchers around the table to talk about critical subjects like climate change. So once again, thank you all for coming, participating in this webinar. The topic, as I said, the topic of climate change and environmental research, and especially in terms of innovation, is front and center in the business that we do to reduce poverty and to promote shared prosperity. You cannot do development without addressing climate change. So with these few words, let me thank all of you again and hand over the microphone back to you, Nina, to take the program forward. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Mercy, for connecting today's endeavor so strongly to our World Bank agenda in Bangladesh. This is great. I'm now handing over to Mr. Mostafa Kamal, who is Secretary at the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. However, he has also been a strong and dedicated advocate for climate action over many years. And it's an honor to have you with us, sir. Over to you.
Thank you, Nina Arnold, moderators, respected Professor Dr. Salim Al-Haq. We have with us Professor Dr. Alamgir, and the moderator has introduced him with some minutes, but I think more minutes to introduce him regarding his action and his opening remarks. My salute and respect to everyone in the webinar. I feel fortunate to be here in this occasion. We just come back from COP26 some days earlier, and the one more day I was there, and at the last moments, I passed my time there with Professor Dr. Salim Al-Haq in the final plenary there. So the initiative of research and innovation for greener Bangladesh is the aspect. Recently, we discussed some meetings with World Bank team, and the word, I repeat it, the word green is repetitively pronounced in their discussion. That is a green economy, green research, green industry. These are the aspects. Yes, we want a green Bangladesh. As Professor Dr. Alamgir told, Bangladesh is green. But the question is how we can retain it greener, and we should retain our green Bangladesh permanently. We have committed in the last COP26 that we shall remain our forest intact, and we shall reforest the barren forest lands. We shall extend our forestation by afforestation, and 143 countries around the world committed in this agreement. That was the first agreement in the last COP26. But in the aspect of Bangladesh, it is well known that we are the innocent victim and only responsible for 0.047% of global emission. This is very negligible, but it is true. Every country is emitting. Thing is that the word green, it means greenhouse gas-free world, what we say. and we must need to reduce our emissions. But recent discussions in a different forum, if we want to extend our green activities, we need substitutes. We need the alternatives. And for the alternatives, we need research. And World Bank has taken that initiative. I do salute the World Bank team steering the treasury education. The mission is that World Bank, I think, will support. In our country, the initiatives for research is very few. There are a lot of causes. Opportunities is also limited. Some days we have seen a list, some Fulbright scholarship for Bangladesh is going to be closed. We are not in the list, in some long listed. So we need support from the world forums, from world banks, because every university is the hub, and UGC can coordinate or make the matchmaking role with World Bank, I think. And from today's program, it is very clear. World Bank is eager to finance for research, to make Bangladesh, not only, to make the globe greener. So from the core of my heart, I salute this augmented initiative. Thanks World Bank team for this initiative. Another thing I want to add, we have our Mujib Climate Prosperity Plan. We have the preparation of our National Adaptation Plan. We have our NDC implementation issue. All these area, for success, we need finance. This is the ultimate, the backlog, I think. When we go for implementation of our NDC, when to make it ambitious, when we are going to finalize our National Adaptation Plan, and adaptation needs lower money in compared to mitigation, but needs money. This is the truth. So financing in this implementing of our Mujib Climate Prosperity Plan, National Adaptation Plan, and achieving the ambition of our NDC, we need the cooperation from World Bank team, and we hope we shall get that from. We have our BCCT institution, and our finance ministry guide is to make research, but the amount is very little. For research purpose, it's not a small project, or it's not, because the researcher and the working area, we can't confine it. That let them be in free hand, because IPCC report is very much science-based, and IPCC clearly told us that we are the victim, maybe innocent victim, but we are the victim. And it is science-based, and every science-based thing is implemented through research. This is not a speech like I am delivering the speech, not that. That is very science is science. What I told in my speech in COP, science is science, and science implies research. So again, I salute World Bank team for this initiative, and I believe the UGC will coordinate, and our universities will have the opportunity from World Bank. Thank you for giving me the opportunity here. Thanks again.
Thank you very much for laying the ground for our discussion today, Secretary Kamal, and also for articulating your expectations vis-à-vis the World Bank so clearly. We now move to the presentation session, and we have 4 distinguished speakers, then a discussant, and then we have a short Q&A session. And we start actually with Professor Salim ul Haq. He's the director of the International Center for Climate Change and Development. He's also a professor at the Independent University of Bangladesh, an associate of the International Institute on Environment and Development in the UK, the chair of the Expert Advisory Group for Climate Vulnerable Forum, and senior advisor to the locally led adoption with Global Center on Adoption, headquartered here in the Netherlands, from which I'm connecting today. Actually, Professor Haak, I'm 12 meters under the sea level. So I really hope that the local climate action works here in the Netherlands. And I think we couldn't have anyone more competent to talk to us about this topic today. It's an honor to have you with us. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Nina, and thank you for that wonderful introduction. My sincere greetings to all the other speakers and panelists, and particularly the Honorable Secretary of the Ministry of Environment, with whom I spent a good time in Glasgow, particularly at the final session of the extended time of the COP26 in Glasgow. So I will make three sets of remarks from my side on this particularly important topic. The first one is the need for climate science education at all levels in Bangladesh. In my view, climate is now such a global phenomena that everybody needs to know about it. And all education systems, not just in Bangladesh, but particularly in Bangladesh, needs to incorporate a suitable level of information all the way up the chain, the pyramid of education, starting at the primary level, then the secondary level, then college level, then university undergraduate level, then university postgraduate level, and then PhDs and expert level. We need to be building our knowledge base all the way up that chain. And my particular interest is at the top of that chain, at the how do we develop experts on climate change at the postgraduate level. In my university in Dhaka, in the Independent University of Bangladesh, we now have, we had the first master's program in climate change and development 9 years ago. We are now in our 9th year, and we hope to expand this to make it into an international course. So far, it's been primarily Bangladeshi, but I'm making an appeal to the Honorable Professor Alamgir from UGC that we would like to explore the possibility of making this a international course online, because nowadays because of COVID, we've been forced to deliver courses online. We know how to do it. We are doing it successfully. And by doing it online, we don't have to confine ourselves to people in Dhaka only. We can actually offer it to people outside Dhaka in Bangladesh, but even outside Bangladesh as well. And I get a lot of applications, by the way, but I'm not able to offer it to them. So I would like to explore the possibility of developing our masters in climate change and development from Independent University Bangladesh into an international masters and not just a Bangladeshi masters. I get a lot of requests, particularly from the least developed countries. We work with the least developed countries very, very closely in the negotiations. As the Honorable Secretary knows, I advise the LDC group in the negotiations on adaptation and loss and damage issues. And so Bangladesh is in a position to not only create the expertise in country, but to share Bangladesh's knowledge with other countries, particularly other vulnerable developing countries in South-South knowledge sharing. So I see this as a very big opportunity, which I hope the World Bank will also think about investing in. So the paradigm shift is Bangladesh is not the recipient of technical assistance, but actually the giver of technical assistance to other countries. We are in a position to deliver that. My center regularly does so. I have people coming, I used to have before COVID, people coming regularly to Bangladesh to spend time with us, and we will offer that hopefully after the COVID crisis is over. We will be able to host people from other countries to come to Bangladesh and learn from us. So I really believe that's a big opportunity that we can develop. The second aspect that I want to share is that things are actually happening. Bangladesh has more than 100 universities if we add up the public and private sector, the quality obviously differs. It's a big spectrum from high quality to low quality. We need to improve the quality, but nevertheless, at the high quality end, a few public sector and private sector universities are beginning to invest significantly in doing research broadly, but specifically, in my view, my field, climate change, which is a really existential threat for a country like Bangladesh, which we need to focus our attention on. And in that respect, we have actually developed over the last 6-7 years a platform of universities which we call Gobeshona. Gobeshona, well over 50 universities and research institutes. We come together once a month to share our research. We have a website with more than 2,500 papers on a searchable database available for researchers. We also have a big annual conference, which we used to do physically at my university in Dhaka for the first 6 years, but as of this year, we made it virtual. And by making it virtual, which we will now keep virtual in future, we have made it global at the same time, because by being virtual, people didn't have to travel to Dhaka to participate. And we ran sessions 24/7 over 7 days, 24 hours a day, from the Pacific region to the Asia, South Asia region to the Africa, Europe region, and then the Americas, and then around the world again, 7 days in a row, more than 100 sessions from all over the world, focusing on locally led adaptation, which is our forte, our particular interest. And as the Honorable Secretary just mentioned, the forthcoming Mujib Climate Prosperity Plan has made very clear Bangladesh wants to become a world leader on locally led adaptation. We are in a position to develop our own expertise, but not only develop expertise for Bangladesh, but share expertise with the rest of the world. So again, opportunity to build on the platform, Gobeshona platform that we already have, and to enhance its effectiveness and its activities. So at the moment, it's been mostly networking and information sharing. We don't have resources to support research, but if we were given resources to do that, we could help organize research in the different universities in Bangladesh. We're all doing something, but with whatever resources we can get, but it's very haphazard, it's very disorganized. We get something here, something there, we do it, we share what we are doing, but the source of funding is not uniform. There's no single source from which we can apply and get funding. So something I would recommend that the World Bank, together with the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change, the Climate Change Trust Fund, which already exists, as the Secretary has mentioned, and UGC might think about putting together a fund to support research for the Bangladeshi research establishments, research institutes on the one hand, universities on the other hand. And we have some very good research institutes, including the entire agriculture research ecosystem of research institutes. So we do have capacity in Bangladesh. We don't have access to significant funds. That's something that we hope we can join forces and ensure. From the researcher side, I can assure you that we are well organized. If we are able to access funding, we will be able to do so. We will be able to produce good research. We will be able to share that good research, both within the country with policy makers and decision makers, as well as outside the country with other countries. And the final point, if I can just emphasize, is that this is a global problem, and it's going to get worse, not better. Those of you who have followed the discussions in the COP will know that in addition to adaptation, mitigation to reduce emissions to start with, and then adaptation to deal with the potential implications or impacts, to now actual loss and damage from human-induced climate change, which we are seeing right now as we speak. We have already entered the loss and damage world. It's unavoidable, it's happening. We need to understand it better. It's a new subject. Not many people understand it. We need to increase our awareness. We need to invest in our understanding and our capabilities to do things. And again, as I said, the whole world is going to have to deal with this problem. Bangladesh is ahead of the game. Bangladesh is in a position to be a world leader on this new and emerging topic of loss and damage from climate change. And I would be very happy to discuss with everybody in this panel and others in the audience who might be interested in exploring this new area of knowledge that we are going to, the whole world is going to have to go up. Nobody knows anything about it. Very few people have worked on this, okay? So this is an emerging area that we all need to work on, particularly the scientists, and then from the scientists, we can provide advice to the decision makers. I'll stop there. Thank you very much, Nina.
Thank you very much, Professor Haque, for this talk, which gave us a lot of food for thought beyond the situation in Bangladesh, actually. Thank you. I'm now handing over to Professor Dr. Zahurul Haque, who is a professor at the Department of Mechanical Engineering and former director at the Center of Energy Studies, Bangladesh, at the University of Engineering and Technology. He holds a PhD from the University of Leeds in the UK, with a specialization on combustion and thermodynamics. He's also a certified energy auditor. Professor Haque, over to you.
Thank you very, very much, Honorable Chair, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamu alaikum and good evening. It's really a pleasure to be part of the discussion and webinar, which is much needed in the sense that we are in trouble. Because I think I should start, share screen, then, okay. You can see the.
We can see the presentation, yes.
Oh, okay, that's fine. Actually, I just want to continue from Professor Alongi. You mentioned green. Maybe 20 years back or 30 years back, when we thought that, okay, we need greener Bangladesh, we started planting a lot of trees. But things has changed. But I can tell you a very interesting story. Maybe 10 years back, one industry, a group actually came to us that they want their industry green, but they want it in a month's time or something like that. So I nearly convinced them we should buy some good green color and paint everything green, because they didn't know. But now we know that green is something different. Green is something so that we can sustain our world green, and energy plays a very vital role for that green. So we shall see a lot of green energy, green building, green fuel, and that sort of thing. A lot of us will say that, okay, are we planning okay? Yes, we are planning okay. So my presentation will be very briefly with the energy master plan up to 2020. I was proud to be part of that master plan, where we planned with the help of JICA how to maintain green. So we work with a lot of components with the energy, building energy, industrial energy, alternative fuels, energy management systems, and others. So my presentation, most of the time, actually, I shall confine to those guidelines and the update of those guidelines. So at first, all of you know that the problem of the global warming. We may be underwater, Maldives may be underwater. There will be a lot of desertification, a lot of diseases will show up, a lot of tornadoes. USA now is facing a very frequent visits of the tornadoes and that sort of things. These are all contributed mostly because of the climate change we are creating. How the climate change is being created? Because with the development of the human society, we are consuming too much energy, because consumption of energy is to some extent the indicator of our development. So as we develop, we demand more energy. When we need more energy, we burn more fuel to produce carbon dioxide, and also we cause deforestation. These all contribute to the global warming. This is why we shall see we have started to feel that a lot of troubles already created, and there is less time available to take action. We must have the actions now. So for the action, I shall talk about how we are actually moving forward to tackle the problem, because it's a global phenomenon. if I produce a product which creates a lot of carbon dioxide, in future, we may not be able to sell it worldwide. I work for International Standardization Organization, ISO, for the standard bioenergy and carbon footprint. In future, most of our product must contain a indicator or a number that will say, well, how much carbon dioxide I am producing. And if that number is high, then we may not be able to sell those products, and our garments industry will be in trouble. Our industry base will be troubled. So we need very intelligent use of energy. We have to conserve it, we have to generate it, and we have to take action. So what we did in the plan, master plan, we finished in 2016. It is up to 2030. So we said, okay, we shall try to improve our primary energy consumption by 2030 and 15% savings in 2021 this year. Unfortunately, we didn't reach those goals. It is in the right direction. So what are the components of the energy master plan? Actually, we identified the mechanisms, how to do it. We thought, oh, well, okay, we must have a very intelligent and efficient energy management system. So if we want to go for a very good energy management system, actually we need a lot of skilled technical persons to make our industries efficient. So we produce the guidelines for energy auditors. We produce the guideline for when we shall say that this equipment is energy efficient or not. So in parallel, we say, well, we should go for the energy leveling program, which would indicate like Energy Star, that this equipment is not producing too much carbon dioxide, or this component is energy efficient. So we are also working on the energy leveling process. And in the country, we have also seen that a significant fraction of the energy is consumed in the building system, and a lot of cases are inefficient systems. So these are the three components. And when we go for energy efficient devices, we have seen that they are costlier. So we need some finance mechanism. Although most of the energy efficient devices have a low payback time, but we have seen that it costs more. So we need some financing planning. So in the energy master plan, actually, we highlighted those things. And in 5 years' time, actually, we are seeing some updates. So I shall also share some of the updates and the activities we used to do. So in Bangladesh, actually, if we look at the energy scenario, we were heavily dependent on natural gas. So we have only small hydropower. Most of them are imported crude oil and very small amount of coal. And in case of energy utilization, case by case, industry is the main consumer. Although if you look at the data, it says that actually residential sector is the main consumer. But because in the energy consumption, we also included the bio energy because we use for cooking and that sort of things. If we just ignore that one, if we just continue the primary fuel, then this scenario will be slightly less, significantly less. And we have seen the commercial sector is very small, transport sector is consuming a lot, and others. So if we look at the percentage-wise energy consumption, industry is the highest one, and it will go up because we are developing, so industrialization will be more. And we see that around 30% of the energy is consumed in the residential sector. Transport sector is 11.5%, and agriculture is small. And we have also predicted what will happen in 2030. We have seen that agricultural sector, there will be not significant increase in the energy consumption, but in case of industrial sector and the residential sector, energy consumption will be more. So our target is to reduce the energy consumption, primary energy consumption by 2030, which is only 9 years away. So when we looked at the energy savings potential, because if you can save one kilowatt of energy, electrical energy, actually you are saving maybe 4 kilowatt equivalent to fuel energy. So in doing so, you are actually saving a lot of carbon dioxide from being emitted. So we have seen that in terms of home appliance energy consumption, we have seen that fans, air conditioners, and lightings, they form a significant fractions of the total energy consumption. But we studied in a very thorough way, and we have seen that there's a potential of saving around 29% of energy efficiency, and we are working a lot to achieve this one, because it's a huge saving potential if you just pay attention to our home appliances. I can quickly revisit that one also. So we wanted to see also the public building energy use intensity. In last 1 year, actually, we carried out with the help of GIZ and STRATA, we have carried out energy auditing of 12 public buildings, and we see that the energy use intensity is widely varying. In one building, I am not mentioning the name, we use 258 kilowatt hour per meter square per year, and another one surprisingly very, very low. If you consider the 12th building, the average is around 75 kilowatt hour per meter square per year. If you want to compare it with the Indian case, 75 to 85 value is for 1-star building, and 45 kilowatt is for 5-star building. So our very good buildings are actually consuming around maybe 50% more energy. So we have to address these things. So we have also identified that our systems, our air conditioning system was not that efficient, and most of our air conditioning system, we have measured the efficiencies, and we found that COP, coefficient of performance values, are 3, although it should be at least 4. And also we have to decide in our public buildings, most of the cases we have seen at the split air conditioning system, we have to go for maybe central air conditioning system, that in that case the coefficient of performance is 5. So there will be maybe 50% more energy savings. So we have to think if you want to make our country green, because then we have to consume lesser amount of energy, and we have to be very, very efficient energy utilization system. So we have identified the data, and we have analyzed the data. We have seen that we can save around 70% of the energy just taking some measures. But unfortunately, some of the measures actually cost a lot of time, a lot of money, and payback time is quite high. It's around 7 years, which is not that good in case of building energy system. So we have extrapolated the data, and we have analyzed maybe 250 selected buildings, which is maintained by the PWD in the Dhaka, around Dhaka city, and we have seen that it is possible to save around 11 to 15 million kilowatt hour per year, but it will save around 15 crore taka, but it will cost around 120 crore taka. Payback time is around 7.6 years, and we should be able to save around 9,000 tons of carbon dioxide. So in terms of energy saving procedure, we need to move forward in this way. We need to save our environment. So we also looked at the industrial sector. Most of you know that the textiles and garments are the key energy consumption sectors, and also that is followed by fertilizers. And we have also analyzed component by component. We have seen that energy saving potential, if we have the money, if we have the technical know-how, we can save around 21% energy. So our target is not the far away. Actually, our target of saving 20% energy is well within us if you have the money and if you have the technical know-how. But there is another thing. If I want to say that I want to improve the energy efficiency of the system, then you need qualified energy auditors. In Bangladesh, actually, in Bangladeshi system, there is only one energy auditor. Some of us actually, except for the example for US energy auditing system, but that number is not that great. We need dedicated number of auditors, and sustainable and renewable energy authority has taken some steps so that there will be exam soon so that we get some effect. They will identify actually how we can save energy in the industry so that it will save fuel, it will save carbon dioxide emission, it will save us from being participant in the global. So in doing so, in the process, actually, we identified several industrial sectors. I'm not going through them. Those are the key energy consumption sectors. And our first priority is to look at those things and look at those industries. And we have identified around 113 installations where we want to go for detailed energy auditing procedure so that we can identify the energy scenario. And we know the benchmark data from other countries so that we can also analyze the energy economy, and we hope to implement if proper financing is there. So in case of renewable energy, as we know, surprisingly, the sun is our main source of energy. Most of you have seen the left diagram. In 1 year, we get this amount of energy from the sun. This is the energy stored in the earth as a fuel, and our total energy consumption per year is this. So in 1 hour, the energy received from sun is equivalent to around the same as the total energy consumption of the whole world. So why we should look for energy? There is abundant energy, but the main problem is to capture it, transmit it, and also store it, because we need energy at night. The sun is not there. So there are a lot of energy sources. Sun is the one thing. In Bangladesh, we focus a lot on the solar PV system. We should go for solar thermal system, but in Bangladesh, we are a small country. Unfortunately, we don't have that much land. We don't have that much wind. We don't have that much wave. We have very limited capability to go for biomass. So our target is to go for around 20% of renewable energy, which didn't happen.
Professor Hack, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just want to kindly remind you of the time.
Oh, maybe 2 minutes. It's nearly done. Okay. So in case of solar, we see that around 500 megawatt is the potential installed capacity, and total is around 776. But although our policy was to achieve 5% in the 2015 and 10% by 2020, we have only achieved 3%. So our target for 20% is very, very difficult. So just to conclude the things, the approach we have taken in last 10 years is excellent for the greener Bangladesh. The guideline is all right. We are moving in the right direction, but we need integrated and very aggressive work plan and monitoring system. We need money, we need integration, because a lot of agencies are working, but we need to go for integrated. Otherwise, in last 10 years, we only achieved 3%, but our intention is to go for 20%. So we need very integrated R&D and action plan. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Professor Haag, for linking today's discussion to the Energy Master Plan and related actions. As our country director, Mercy, reminded us at the beginning of today's webinar, we are not only here to learn from Bangladesh, but collectively also to learn from other countries around the globe. With this line, I'm going to introduce our next 2 speakers, the first one from Thailand and the second one from Korea. So from Thailand, we have with us Professor Dr. Tamarat Kotatep, who is a professor at the Department of Energy, Environment and Climate at the School of Environment, Resources and Development at the Asian Institute of Technology in Thailand. He lectures in environmental engineering and management, and he is currently also the academic chair of a newly launched marine plastic abatement program. Professor Kotatep, over to you, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you hear my voice?
We can hear you well, and we can see your presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Nina. Thanks a lot for your kind introduction and also grateful appreciation to the bank that allows me to help in this the webinar, which is very interesting, timely to discuss about this issue. So yeah, so I like to
There seems to be a problem with the connection, unfortunately.
hello.
Yes, now we can hear you again.
Okay. Let me share again slide. Can you see my slide?
Yes, and maybe it's also for us who are not presenting, maybe we stop our video during the presentation. Maybe that helps a bit.
Good, thank you very much. So I just like to share a bit of our research and innovations related to the climate, related to the greener Bangladesh, that I hope that it would be very helpful for you in the future as that you plan to implement the strategies that in your country you should develop. One of the things that I like to share with you, I think that Professor Alamke also mentioning about that the necessity of the climate smart or the climate adaptable technologies. One of which I like to share with you that the wash or the water and sanitation and hygiene. So I think in Bangladesh, you have been developed so fast, including that you are the one that the country that having announced very early stage for the open defecation free country. But after which we need to think about that, how we can manage the sanitation properly and think about that, the climate smart on these technologies as well, to combine all the waste and treat in the huge, the large scale treatment plant, or having the big pipes with the pumps, with many other things. It could cause a lot of that the greenhouse gas emission as well, not only from the use of the energy, but also in itself, it can contribute a lot of these contribution on the greenhouse gas from the septic tank, from the wastewater treatment system. So I'd like to share with you some idea that one of the ongoing research that we are working. So I think you know so well that the climate smart, it should not just be only thinking of the carbon dioxide or carbon footprints, but also to adapt to such a serious climate situation, the flood or the drought, and how we can manage the situation of the sanitation. You may see on these photos that we collect the sludge. But if we just collect the sludge from the toilets, from our cesspit pool, I think right now in Bangladesh, you did so well to improve and having the people access to toilets. But after toilets, what you are doing, I repeat again that you should not did the same mistake that in our country, my country, in Thailand, that we successfully having the people getting access to the toilets, but not really have a good management of the wastewater yet. So if we just dump this kind of bio waste from our toilets openly without any control, not only the disease or the spread of the problem of the pollutions, but we also spread off that the opportunity to create more greenhouse gas openly without any control. So that we try to think about that, well, how we can manage better, how we can list about that, whether it is possible. On one hand, we would like to control the sanitation. We also try to leverage the hygienic conditions for the people. But on the other hand, we also think about that, what would be the technologies that we should do, we should plan in advance. The greenhouse gas emission should not be so high. Of course, perhaps in the big projects from the World Bank, from the other banks, Islamic Development Bank, you may like to get the huge treatment plant. But unfortunately, I'm sure that not the whole country can afford that. maybe the rural area, the small city, you may need to rely on a decentralized sanitation system anyway. So that we think about that, well, why don't we improve the toilets? I think you know me so well, the Inventing the Toilets program, that fortunately AAT is one of the grantees that received the investment by the foundation, by the Gates Foundation, that we come up with the septic tank, the solar septic tank. That you may notice that solar, that doesn't mean that we use the solar energy, but we use the thermal energy from the solar that we can improve the quality of the septic tank. So somehow we need to encourage people to think globally and then think about that, how we can integrate this, not just only think about that, well, once you would like to treat the septic tank sludge, but why not we think about that, the renewable energy applied to that. So this would be one of the example that how we can create the research innovation related to the climate change. And then the other one that we are now doing with the GIZ in Thailand, that we try to understand the system approach on the climate change of the domestic wastewater management in Thailand. So in the about that the 25% of the city, big city in Thailand, we equip with that large scale wastewater treatment system. Then we would like to understand that from these the contribution of the greenhouse gas, not only from the energy consumption, but also during the process. They may create greenhouse gas, carbon dioxide, methane gas, and nitrous oxide as well. So that we try to systematize and evaluate that, how can we manage. So I think that would be another thing that we can think about. And the other thing is that apart from the centralized treatment system, we are now working with the UNICEF that try to encourage and then collect the information that what are the climate smart technology that we try to combine and evaluate that which good for the country. Like if we select these particular technologies, on one hand it may be quite cheap, but on the other hand it may create too much of that greenhouse gas. So apart from the transportation or energy consumption, I think this would be one of the key issues that in Bangladesh should be aware of, that what would be the contribution from the waste management sectors, from the wastewater, also from the solid waste as well. So this would be things that we can use the IPCC formulas to calculate, and then we try to collect the informations. So an example that the innovations or the contribution that we have been invented, the toilet system that from the Gates Foundation, we found out that once we try to calculate, for example, that apart from the carbon dioxide emissions, we can contribute about that 1,000 kilogram carbon dioxide equivalent per year. But of course, it would be much higher compared with that conventional septic tank. But on the other hand, we reduce the accumulated sludge. That means that the conventional septic tank, they still have a higher sludge generation. But with the sludge, if you do not control, if you do not manage or treat them well, it is disposed openly or disposed into the environment. That also contribute largely to the greenhouse gas as well. So that I think that would be another thing that we have to think carefully. And now we are having the ongoing research on these carbon emission estimations from this kind of waste management on the toilets, from the fecal sludge management. That I think that Professor Alamki also knowing so well that we have variety of the technologies how to manage that, but we need to also think about that, how we can estimate, how we can calculate the carbon emission from these. And also we think about that, well, somehow we need to not just think about the performance and cost. Normally the technologies like we invented toilet technologies, it would be better in a sense that we can achieve the very stringent standards or can have a better cost. But what about the carbon emissions? So that would be another question. The question marks that from your country, you have much more populations and in terms of density, and also that you also now trying to improve the sanitation system. I'm sure that the SDG 6, Bangladesh also invests a lot of money for that purpose, not just having the toilets, but after toilets, you need to think about that what should be the technologies that on one hand can meet the standard, can kill the germs, can reduce the organics, but also we have to think about that what are the carbon emissions out of the technologies. So we try to collect all the information like this, that with the advantage, disadvantages, and estimated carbon emission as well, in order to ensure that the people, the planners, the officers, or the decision maker can think of that what should be the direction. So this is still on the work in progress that we are doing with the UNICEF, try to collect all the data from the on-site sanitation system to the safe drinking water, and also the hand washings that somehow you have, especially from these COVID-19 situations, we have many new technologies. Some may not use at all the energy, some may use more, and some can get more information like that. So we try to collect all the data like this with that the system, and also with the FIFO sludge management, that we try to giving you more information. I think that Professor Alamgir also knows quite well that we train many Bangladeshi professors or the experts that what to manage, how to manage the FIFO sludge management. And then at that time, we try to talk only about that, how we can meet the standards compared with that the centralized wastewater treatment system. But right now, we try to propose to the society that, well, once we think about the FIFO sludge management, when we select the technology, we need to think about that, well, what about the greenhouse gas emissions? If we just doing nothing, it means that big contribution of these greenhouse gas emission, particular to the high concentration of the organics in our FIFO sludge, that if we left without any treatment, then it would contribute a lot, not only the methane gas, but nitrous oxide, and also do a lot of that as well. So that's why we try to collect all this kind of information and giving ideas that, well, what to do, what to manage. And then I think that this is the one of the example that we try to propose, that from the greener Bangladesh point of views, of course, the energy sector, the industrial sector also very important. But I would like to share with you that this is another area that play very important roles. On one hand, it's not only for the greeners in the sense of that contribute to the greenhouse gas emission. On the other hand, greener Bangladesh, it should mean that we can provide good quality for the people from the environmental point of view, that having less pollutions and also having less disease spread in the society. So this is the views of my contribution on this. But just like to inform to you another thing, that as if you have a few minutes of time, Nina, that recently we have another program on the marine plastic abatement. So instead of just thinking of the plastics, thinking about that into the environment, but we need to think about how we can properly manage. And we have the curriculums ready for the university. We have talking to the World Bank officers like Chiro-san, that how can we transfer the technology, and also that we can train your people, your faculty members, that whether you like to train more. And then, of course, we're willing to share our expertise, how you can set or modify your current program, that from the private or the public university, you can use our curriculum, you can use our materials. And of course, we would be very much willing to share the ideas how we can manage. Of course, AT would not be the one that having the MPA program, but we would like to collaborate together with our university in Bangladesh. So thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this interesting talk with a twinkle in your eye. May toilets be with you. It sounds funny, and I think it put a smile on our faces, but all of us who work on education projects and public sector projects, of course, know how essential the whole question of sanitation is. So we learned a lot from you in this talk, Professor Kotatep. Thank you very much. I'm now going to hand over to Dr. Seung-Min Ryu from Korea. Dr. Ryu is a senior environmental specialist at the Korea Environmental Industry and Technology Institute, which is affiliated with the Ministry of Environment. And prior to working at the institute, she supported climate change mitigation projects at the Global Environmental Facility in Washington, DC. It's an honor to have you with us, Dr. Ryu. We are looking forward to your presentation. We can already see the presentation, but we don't hear you yet. Maybe I take the moment just to remind our participants, please to put their questions in the chat box. Thank you.
Can you hear me? And also
now we can hear you. Excellent. Over to you.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Seung-Min Ryu from Korea Environmental Industry and Technology Institute. First of all, I'd like to thank you, World Bank colleagues, inviting me this valuable webinar for research and innovation for greener Bangladesh. Today, I'm briefly introduce about KT, and then I will also share Korea's environmental experience a little bit. And then I will introduce KT's environmental research complex we called eTech Hive. And finally, I'm sharing our university supporting program. I heard from my World Bank colleagues, lots of audience comes from the university. So I prepared this last slide. KT is a public organization under the Korea Ministry of Environment. KT established in 2009. We are providing one-stop environmental solutions to support fostering the environmental industry and technologies, and promoting international environmental cooperation, and including innovative environmental technologies. KT is supporting over 500 projects in around 50 countries. Particularly in Bangladesh, we have been supporting 5 environmental projects, establishment of environmental master plan, feasibility study for environmental projects, and we also supporting KT World Bank Joint Technical Assistance Project also. We are also supporting Bangladesh in 2020. We also have a plan to supporting again 2022. As I know, Bangladesh wants to improve sector-specific environmental policies for sustainable green economic growth. So I'd like to briefly share the Korea's experience in here. In the last 50 years, Korea also faced major issues such as sharp population growth, fast urbanization, and industrialization, rapid informatization, and climate change. So to solve this kind of issues, we need to accelerate green technologies. To accelerate green technologies, the government should introduce strong environmental policies. So Korea implements this kind of registrations that have been administered by the Ministry of Environment. The development of environmental technologies is very closely related to environmental policy and also the economic level. This is a graph depicting Korea's GDP per capita. It shows how Korea's environmental technologies and industries are impacted by our income level. our income level. Looking more closely at this graph, you can see more details about what types of industries emerged in Korea based on our GDP per capita. This is KT's E-Tech Hive. It is an environmental research complex funded by the Korea Ministry of Environment, and it is organized by the KT also. And I also prepared several slides about the E-Tech Hive. However, I'd like to introduce through this slide. I will share the short video after finishing my presentation. I think it is more effective way to understand the E-Tech Hive. Due to the time limitation, I'd like to skip this slide. You can see the same information through the video clip. So I will share the video clip after finishing this presentation. Before watching the video clip about the E-Tech Hive, I'd like to share KT's university supporting program. KT is supporting this kind of program for specialized graduate school. So this program is to foster human resources who can support the green industry. So based on Korean vision of the Green New Deal, we are trying to increase the people have a knowledge in the green industry and green technologies. And also in Korea, the unemployment rate of young people is a serious problem. So through this program, we are trying to create jobs for young people also. You can see the detailed procedures in this slide, and please refer to the slide. And this is the main subject offered in graduate school. This program supported by the KT, and this supporting fund comes from the Korean Ministry of Environment. We are supporting this kind of subject to get a master degree from the university. Through this kind of program, we can foster human resources so they can support the green industry and technology in Korea and also outside of Korea. So considering the time limitation, I'd like to share the short video. So Nakata, can you share the video now? Thank you. Thank you.
여기 한 그루의 나무가 있습니다. 한 그루의 나무들이 모여 숲을 이루고 보다 살기 좋은 세상을 만듭니다. 세상의 모든 환경 기술이 모인 숲. 미래를 바꿀 환경 기술 개발. 환경산업연구단지에서 시작됩니다. 세계적 환경기업의 메카, 환경산업연구단지에는 대한민국 환경산업의 국제 경쟁력을 키우기 위한 최적의 기술 개발 환경이 조성됩니다. 2017년 7월 환경산업연구단지 개소식을 기점으로 환경기술의 메카가 정식적으로 출범하였습니다. 환경산업연구단지엔 지리적 편리함이 있습니다. 인천시 종합환경연구단지와 연계한 환경연구 클러스터 중심지로서 공항, 고속철도, 도시철도 등이 인접한 최적의 교통요지에 위치해 있습니다. 환경산업연구단지엔 무한대의 가능성이 있습니다. 환경기술 개발을 위한 연구에서 실증 실험, 시제품 생산, 해외 진출까지 입주기업이 사업화 성공을 실현하도록 원스톱 솔루션을 제공합니다. 환경 전 분야 실증 연구를 수행할 수 있는 실증 실험 시설, 연구, 실험 분석과 행정 지원을 위한 연구 지원 시설, 제품, 설비의 시제품 제작을 위한 시제품 생산 지원 시설이 환경 분야별로 집약하여 배치됩니다. 환경산업연구단지엔 특별함이 있습니다. 특화시설인 파일럿 테스트동과 테스트 베드에 가면 자유형 실증 연구를 마음껏 수행할 수 있습니다. 상하수, 배수, 대기, 물 재이용, 생활환경, 비점 오염 등 환경 전 분야의 파일럿 테스트가 가능한 파일럿 테스트동과 다양화된 원수 공급, 실험 배출수 처리와 재사용 시스템을 구축한 야외 테스트 베드에서는 각종 오염물질 처리와 행정 간소화를 통해 안심하고 더욱 질 높은 실증 연구를 펼칠 수 있게 됩니다. 또한 연구개발, 실험 분석 지원을 위한 연구 지원 시설은 물론 시제품 제작 시설, 배수 처리 시설 등과 같은 지원 시설 및 세미나실, 강당, 체육관 등의 부대 시설, 연구자와 방문객이 이용할 수 있는 쾌적한 게스트하우스 등 입주기업이 연구에만 집중할 수 있는 최적의 인프라를 갖추었습니다. 환경산업연구단지엔 자연이 있습니다. 푸른 자연 속에서 환경기술을 연구할 수 있도록 더 넓은 녹지 공간이 펼쳐집니다. 이처럼 천혜의 자연 환경과 뛰어난 연구시설을 모두 갖춘 환경산업연구단지는 물, 폐기물, 대기, 생활환경 등 환경 분야의 창업 벤처기업 및 연구소 등을 대상으로 공정하고 투명한 절차를 통해 입주 계약을 체결하고 있습니다. 환경산업연구단지엔 아낌없는 지원이 있습니다. 입주기업의 필요를 반영하여 비용 부담을 줄이고 지원 혜택을 늘리고 있습니다. 이곳에 입주한 환경기업은 기술 개발에서 해외 진출까지 한 곳에서 해결할 수 있는 전방의 지원을 받게 됩니다. 연구개발 단계에서는 중장기 기술 로드맵 수립, 기업 수요 중심의 실증화 연구개발 지원, 기술개발 전문가 협업 지원으로 입주기업의 기술개발 역량을 극대화할 수 있습니다. 사업화 단계에서는 신기술 인검증 지원, 성능 확인제도 운영, 사업화 자금 지원 등을 통해 개발 기술의 신뢰성과 경쟁력을 동시에 확보하도록 지원합니다. 또한 입주기업이 세계 환경시장에 진출하고 환경산업 유망 국가에 현지 맞춤형으로 판로를 개척할 수 있도록 홍보, 컨설팅, 마케팅을 끊임없이 지원합니다. 특히 환경산업연구단지의 입주기업들은 기술원과 연계한 지원사업뿐 아니라 한국환경공단, 중소기업진흥공단 등 다각도의 연계 지원을 통해 보다 폭넓은 기회를 제공받을 수 있도록 합니다. 환경산업연구단지엔 성장이 있습니다. 우수 아이디어와 기술을 부여한 벤처기업과 초기 창업기업에겐 튼튼한 환경기업으로 자리잡기 위한 아낌없는 지원이 펼쳐집니다.
환경산업연구단지에 입주하게 됨으로써 친환경 기업이라는 이미지와 신뢰도를 쌓을 수 있게 되었고요. 그로 인하여 매출 상승 효과를 누릴 수 있었습니다.
이곳 연구단지에서 저희 업체는 최적의 환경기술 개발을 할 수 있도록 많은 혜택과 조건을 제공받고 있고요. 앞으로 또 진행되는 사업화 지원을 통해서 저희 사업이 본 궤도로 나아갈 수 있는 좋은 기회라고 생각합니다.
오직 연구에만 몰입할 수 있는 최적의 환경. 우수 연구자가 연구단지에 정착할 수 있는 지원과 유관기관과의 연구협력 네트워크를 통해 활발한 교류의 장이 마련됩니다. 환경산업연구단지의 문은 넓습니다. 우수 환경기술을 보유한 기업뿐만 아니라 벤처기업부터 대기업 환경연구소까지 특히 유사시설 대비 사용료 79% 수준의 저렴한 임대 사용료와 강당, 세미나실, 회의실과 같은 대관 시설 및 게스트하우스 사용료 할인 등으로 입주기업의 부담을 대폭 낮추었습니다. 또한 초기에 입주하는 기업에게는 개소 후 1년간 임대료의 50% 할인, 이후 2년간 30% 할인과 같은 재정적, 기술적, 행정적 지원 등 더 많은 혜택을 제공합니다. 대한민국 환경산업의 내일을 바꿀 환경기술의 새로운 숲. 미래 가치를 창조하는 세계적 환경산업의 메카를 향한 힘찬 비상. 환경연구 클러스터의 중심, 환경산업연구단지에서 여러분과 함께 대한민국 환경산업의 미래가 시작됩니다.
Thank you, Dr. Röh. Is this the end of your presentation?
Yeah, this is my end of my presentation. And please understand that the video narration is in Korean. Please
Yes.
delete the English caption. Thank you.
No problem. We had the subtitles, and it's very interesting that you brought it up, because one of the comments we received was that countries need an awareness campaign. And while the video has multiple functions, it also reminds us of this important function. Thank you very much. And we understand it's really late for you. So we are very grateful that you connected nevertheless. Now with
Thank
this,
you.
I would like,
Yeah.
thank you. With this, I would like to hand over to Dr. Samia Selim, who is the Director and Associate Professor at the Center for Sustainable Development at the University of Liberal Arts, Bangladesh, and she is also a postdoctoral researcher at the Leibniz Center of Tropical Marine Research in Bremen, my native country, Germany. Over to you, Dr. Selim.
Thank you, Nina. Wow, that was really excellent. Thank you to all the speakers. We covered such a wide breadth of topics under, the general greening Bangladesh. So I'm just going to pick up a few key things in my reflection that cuts across all the speakers. But thank you again for your talks. So I'm going to start. Some of the three key themes, picking up from Dr. Selim, really, he mentioned three key points, and I'm going to pick up on his first point that he made about climate science education, the fact that we need to have it across all levels of education, from primary to tertiary, and then, the importance of why we need that. I just want to reflect a little bit on that, and others have mentioned this as well. So the need for education, and the need for education on climate science, on greening, on sustainable development, I feel it needs to cut across not just for education on these topics, but it needs to integrate into all other areas of topics, because what we're talking about is greening economy, greening Bangladesh, and greening is not for a sector. It's, as we heard already, it cuts across energy, housing, sanitation. It cuts across, really everything that we do. So the education really needs to be embedded. And an example of that is something that we do at ULab. We have a minor on sustainable development, which is not for environmental science and engineering. This is for business students, for communications for all. And it really helps, which brings me to my later points, to have that systems approach in addressing the things we need to do to move to a greener world. So we talked today, we heard from Dr. Jarul, he mentioned about integration in the energy, and he really showed how through the research, he could show that where we need to work on, whether in industry, housing, air conditioning. We heard about the solar septic tanks, we heard about innovation in sanitation. But what I'm trying to pick out from there is it requires an integrated approach that cuts across several sectors. So the education needs to reflect that as well. So as we develop modules, as we developed, a greener education, we need to think about it being across for all disciplines, not just for science, engineering students as well. Communications is a big part of it, being able to, and just to add to that as well, Dr. Gerald, he explained what we're doing for greener energy, but that's on the harder side. On the softer side, there's so much we need to do also on behavioral change in terms of greening. And, for that, we need skills around communications. We need language skills as well. So that, I believe, also needs to be reflected as we move towards, greening aspects in education and research. The other thing, my second point was about, he mentioned integration, and we heard so much about lots of innovation and technology, but he mentioned that we don't have enough qualified energy auditors. And this is just one example of the lack of green skills and green training that's needed. So education, yes, but beyond that, as we look at technical vocational institutes, as we look at other sectors where training is required on, what does a green skill? He mentioned about energy, air conditioning. We need to replace, but who's going to, we need to know about that. We need to generate green skills within the economy as well. And my third thing is, a lot of this is green finance. We can come up, solutions exist. We learned, from Dr. Seung Min, amazing. There's so much we can just pick up from that. We heard from Dr. Tamara about, innovation on, dealing with in-salad sanitation, what we do. So many different ways that we can lower our carbon footprint, move green, but finance is a big thing. And so green finance and how we do that is another area that needs to be explored in education, as well as moving forward in research. Obviously, ideally, of course, the government and other, there's ways to finance, but also, how do we make it sustainable finance? How do we have greener finance? So these are other elements. And I'm going to end with my last point, which is, so I mentioned in my postdoc, my work is on blue economy, right? In Bangladesh, blue economy in Bangladesh. And at the same time, I work in climate resilience and livelihoods. And I think a lot of this we can pick up on and connect the dots to make this greener agenda happen. So for example, if we are developing, we need to develop, we're moving towards, a bluer economy, the potentials there, the resources are there. How do we do it through a greener pathway? At the same time, whilst, providing livelihoods for people affected in the coastal belt by climate change and its impact. So there's, there needs to be discussion around, on the board on how do we connect these dots of, it's not climate adaptation on one side as we developed, and on a different side, they need to be connected. So if we can link up green skills, green jobs, along with, this development, it addresses obviously some of the solutions for climate adaptation, and it helps us to move towards, this green vision that we want to have. I'm speaking for Bangladesh, but this is applicable obviously in other places as well. Besides that, I learned a lot myself, and I think this lessons learning from other countries, in Korea and Thailand. These are lessons. Dr. Huck pointed out, we're not just the receiver, we are the leaders in so many ways. And I think that knowledge exchange and knowledge, generation that can be shared in an accessible way across different countries, different stakeholders is really important. And I think I'll stop there and pass on to you, Nina.
Dr. Selim, this was one of the most succinct and to the point summaries which I had the pleasure to listen to. So thank you very much for making our job so easy and summarizing it so competently. And interestingly enough, many of the points which you distilled from these excellent talks which we heard resonate also with our audience, because we received a couple of questions, and they are often connected to the points which you also made in your summary. So thank you for this again. What I'm going to do now is that I mention a few of the questions we received, and given the advanced time, what I would suggest is that we do a very quick round with the speakers. Each of the speakers picks one question or one topic, so not everyone goes through everything, but you will have the flexibility to pick one point which you think you would like to respond to or add to. So just to say that the organizers will send the PowerPoint presentations. There were many questions around the role of the UGC and how is the World Bank going to support this. And I would suggest that you really also engage with the organizers who will write to us after the event. And then there were some very specific questions, for example, around hospital waste management. And here I would suggest that you contact the respective speakers. So in this case, Professor Kotatep and Professor Haag, and discuss with them directly and ask for their guidance. A few remaining points, which I also find very interesting. Repeatedly, the topic of green skills came up. Already in our first presentation by Professor Haag, who also said we need an established cadre of professionals. So it needs to be green skills from early learning up to graduate education. But then you said, Professor Haag, but I will focus on graduate education. So if you could formulate one wish or starting point to the education system in terms of green skills, where should we start? So this would be one question, and maybe I could direct this to you. Also, the point of multidisciplinary education came up. We didn't really discuss it explicitly, but it's a hot topic, for example, in neighboring India, where it's in the national education policy. And of course, this is a topic, climate action, which is clearly at the crossroad, as some of our speakers and also Dr. Selim mentioned. Then another question related to working with private companies. And I think this is a question maybe our esteemed speakers from Thailand and Korea would like to tell us a little bit more about this, because I think it's an important part of your respective work. And I would leave it to these 3 points. We do a quick round, and then our program leader for human development will say the final words for this webinar today. Professor Salimul Haque, maybe I could start with you and with the education-related question.
Thank you very much, Nina. Very good question indeed. So my contention is that every school child on planet Earth needs to understand both climate change, which is a global issue, and environmental issues, which are more local. Wherever they happen to live, there are environmental issues in their locality that they can link to the broader global climate change. And they are increasingly linkable. The links are now quite visible. You may have seen in the news in the last 48 hours, the tornadoes that have torn apart the 4 or 5 states in the United States and killed nearly 100 people. That's climate change happening there in the United States of America. They don't know it. They don't recognize it. They don't feel that it's true, but it is. And everywhere we're going to have to deal with it. So it's an important subject for every school child from primary to secondary up the chain in an appropriate manner, obviously. And as I mentioned, my end of that spectrum is the higher education end. In fact, even not just even the undergraduate, but the postgraduate end of that, which is developing expertise, not just awareness and knowledge, but expertise. And that's really where I think we are in a very good position in Bangladesh. We have a very good foundation in the many universities that we have, but we are not utilizing them to produce the quality final postgraduate degrees of skill sets that we need for the entire country. And this is across the spectrum of needs, not just climate. I focus on climate myself, but it's true for all the other sectors that we need this expertise in. And really, to me, this is a low-hanging fruit in terms of investment. The institutions exist, the faculty exist, we are not delivering a good product. we need to re-examine. And this does not need more money. It needs rethinking the way we do things. And that is a big challenge. And so we need to get of our business usual teaching modalities into a new elite. I have nothing against doing it in elite universities to start with, but then spreading it across the entire university sector, which is a big sector in Bangladesh, by the way. I mentioned earlier, we have more than 100 universities and many tens of thousands of students. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will turn to you, Professor Sahuro Haque, in a moment, just to say that we will take 5 more minutes, and we hope this is okay. We know it's late for many of you, and it's excellent that you are all still connected and contributing. Thank you. Professor Sahuro Haque, do you want to add to this maybe, or maybe also refer to the question of moving from a more narrowly defined profile of engineering education towards a more multidisciplinary approach in the area we discussed today?
Dissemination of knowledge is important, but if you want to achieve optimization of energy system and the environment, you need proper professionals. What I emphasize is actually we have a lot of skilled manpower, but we don't have enough skilled personnel to audit energy status. We need very highly qualified investment grade energy auditor so that we can identify where I am inefficient, how I can economically show that this investment is all right, and also to show that it is actually for beneficial of my economy and environment. I think in that respect, we have a severe lack in resource and power. Just I wanted to add this one. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Haque. And then last point on engagement with the private sector and role of the private sector. I would hand over to our 2 guests from Thailand and Korea, and maybe if it's okay with you, Dr. Thammarat, Professor Thammarat, maybe this time we go with ladies first, and then I hand over to you. Thank you.
I will give an answer about the awareness program of climate change is needed for the various levels of society. In Korea, we are operating various awareness programs for various levels of society. For example, we are providing awareness program in the kindergarten and also elementary school and middle school and high school, and also in Korea, every municipality also providing awareness program of climate change to the residents. So actually in Korea, we have a lot of awareness program of climate change for various levels of society. So I think in Bangladesh, yeah, I agree. In Bangladesh, I think Bangladesh also need to operate awareness program of climate change for various levels of society, like Korea. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ria. And now I hand over to you, Professor Kotatep, maybe also on the question of engagement with the private sector.
Thank you. I just like to echo Dr. Ria was talking about that. It is very necessity to raise more awareness, especially to the young generation, that how they can consider this is important. But I just like to recommend that the systematic information would be very much needed, which should not just be only the energy sectors or transportation sectors. There are many other sectors that also contribute to the greenhouse gas emissions, to the carbon emissions, and also that the greener Bangladesh is not just only the greenhouse gas emission. It should involve pollutions. It should involve mitigations of the biodiversity, something like that. That's how we can raise the awareness to the young people in particular to that, if we get a very good research, good innovation, then it can bring the new generation that be aware more, and then they can consider that it could be a new future for them. It's not that they cannot go anywhere, just taking only for the money for the sake of that for livings, but they should contribute back. That's how they can do better. That is my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Kotatep. This is well noted. I would like to close our discussion now and thank you all very much. For me, it was a very interesting session. I personally learned a lot, and I hope to take this also forward in our global tertiary education work. I'm now going to hand over to Keiko Inoue, who is our esteemed program leader for human development at the bank, who will say a few final words from our side. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nina, and thank you, panelists, and everybody for joining us today. It's a real pleasure to thank everybody and to congratulate everyone. We've heard a lot of interesting ideas for how research institutes and universities can contribute to climate change and environmental research and innovation, particularly in the context of a green, resilient, and inclusive development for Bangladesh. I want to really acknowledge the excellent speakers that we've had today, both from within Bangladesh, but also beyond. Special thanks to our respected speakers, Professor Salimul Hook, Professor Zahurul Haq, for sharing these valuable insights today, drawing on your long-term support to a wide-ranging climate change relevant research and innovation in Bangladesh. It's a real pleasure to hear from the experts. And then also I would like to thank Dr. Tamarat and Dr. Ru for sharing their exemplary practices from Thailand and Korea. Dr. Tamarat, you talked about the capabilities of universities to make green technologies adaptable and available for local environmental issues. And I really love that you did so, as Nina said, with the twinkle in your eye during your presentation. And Dr. Ru, your presentation highlighted the critical role that the public sector can play to promote the growth of green research and innovation. And of course, the importance of harnessing the power of the private sector. Dr. Salim, thank you for those pragmatic reflections that you offered to us to pull it all together. And I think what today's webinar makes clear is that there's an incredibly important opportunity for universities and researchers in Bangladesh to contribute to the climate change and green growth agenda. We've discussed today about the importance of solutions that are adapted to the local context, and therefore these researchers in Bangladesh are incredibly helpful for that purpose. And hearing also from what other countries are doing will also surely put Bangladesh on a path towards effective climate change, adaptation, and mitigation. In this context, I'm pleased to say that the bank has supported projects, particularly in higher education, that have been supporting these important greening initiatives. I'll mention three just quickly. The first is the Higher Education Quality Enhancement Project, which supported several innovative environmental research projects by university faculties. One research grant was so successful, in fact, that it secured a patent in the area of efficiency improvement in RMG factories. And also environmental engineering departments have upgraded their facilities using these project grants. And moving forward, we have the Higher Education Acceleration and Transformation Project, which will be working closely with the University Grants Commission to further strengthen the research and innovation of higher education in Bangladesh, and environmental and climate change research and innovation will be one of the key priority areas for funding and support for Pantin. And finally, the Accelerating and Strengthening Skills for Economic Transformation Project, or the ASSET project, This will be supporting the green growth agenda from the skills development side to expand training programs for skills for green jobs. The World Bank is currently working on a new flagship report, of Country Climate and Development Report, it's called, and it will guide the bank's overall support for building climate change resilience and reducing carbon gas emissions in Bangladesh. We think that the lessons and recommendations from today's discussion will inform the preparation of this CCDR, and it will give us the important evidence base to formulate our future strategy to support Bangladesh's green growth and climate resilience. So I thank you all once again, and on behalf of the World Bank, I look forward to continuing to closely collaborating with everybody here. Thank you again, and good night and good day to those of you for whom it's just starting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Keiko. Goodbye, and thanks to all of you for this excellent session.
Thank you to all. Goodbye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, Dr. Yu. Thank you very much, Secretary, sir. Thank you very much, Professor Sharma.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Thank you very much, Dr. Yu. It's so late for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.